Já bych možná se chtěla zeptat na téma vděčnost, soucit, tady tyhle emoce, které jsou hodně spojené právě s tím systémem toho sociálního zapojení. Jakým způsobem ovlivňují naši fyziologii? Co se děje v našem těle, když když v sobě vybudíme právě tyhle pocity vděčnosti, soucitu? Takže je opravdu jako prožijeme.
So we have to go back to your earlier question, which was, what is the theory? The theory describes three different physiological states. It describes a social engagement state, which gives us the flexibility to feel safe enough with another person to be held. It enables us to be safe enough to be spiritual. It enables us to be safe enough to be benevolent, generous, and compassionate to others. Then there's a physiological state that is shared with virtually all vertebrate, and this is called the sympathetic nervous system, and this supports movement, skeletal motor activity. And you think of it primarily in terms of fight flight, but if you keep the social engagement, that newer ventral vagus on board, movement becomes play. But if the ventral vagus isn't on board, movement is easily fight flight, and that's broadcast to another. And finally, there's a very older system that we share with virtually every vertebrate, and that is a dorsal vagal system. And for us, it regulates the gut primarily. Interestingly, if you have children and they have a lot of stomach problems or don't want to go to school, that's reflecting that this system gets recruited in defense, and it gets recruited when the organism feels like it's under life threat. So people with trauma histories is often manifested in the organs below the diaphragm. They have gut problems, they have irritable bowel syndrome, and that is the nervous system basically expressing itself in a state of life threat. So we start understanding these systems and how they react, and then we therefore understand that if we targeted our strategies, not in terms of trying to control behavior or even to get insight about behavior, but to say that we need to get people's physiological states out of threat into a more social engagement, co-regulatory, safe state, then we can start dealing with psychological problems. In a sense, we tend to think that the problems that are really problems of life threat and defense are under our control, that if we don't want to be that way, we are not. In reality, we don't have the control over it. So the part that you want to bring up was about compassion and gratitude and these types of feelings. Those feelings are a privilege. You have a privilege of feeling those when your body is not in a state. The problem is our culture supports states of threat. And we need a culture that at least has some time, a few hours a day, that supports feelings of safety and trust. Then the expression of compassion and gratitude would be a naturally occurring experience. But when we're under threat, we're all concerned about our own survival, taking care of ourselves. And when we are safe, we're really a wonderful species, because when we're safe, we care about others.
Já jsem o uplynulém víkendu byla na semináři s Anitou Modžany, což je žena, která se uzdravila z 4. stádia rakoviny, napsala o tom knížku, Musela jsem zemřít. A ta právě hovoří o tom, jak ten medicínský systém právě v momentě, kdy dá tu diagnózu, že je to rakovina nebo cokoliv dalšího, tak vlastně v nás se zvedne obrovská hladina toho strachu, obav, a to je přesně ten opak, co potřebujeme pro to, abychom byli schopni se uzdravit a léčit. Máš nějaký nápad, jak tyhle ty principy vnést nejenom do medicíny, ale třeba také do vzdělávacího systému, který je taky hodně kompetitivní, a zrovna tak i do firemního prostředí?
I think the culture, whether we're talking about medicine, could even talk about religion or education, it's all evaluative and threat related. Our nervous system doesn't like to be in states of fear. It's not good for our bodies. It's not good for our health. I think medicine is practiced inappropriately because it focuses on assessment. evaluation. Same thing with education. Students are frightened. Assessments of tests, whether they're medical tests or educational tests, trigger our physiology. In education, it makes it difficult to be creative and to solve difficult problems because our body is in a survival state. In medicine and in health, like the book that you're describing, the person's body was under a state of life threat, may really plus the addition from the physician. And part of the medical model is that if their patients are scared enough, the patient will be compliant and will do what's necessary to get better. But they miss an important point, is that getting better is part of the job of the nervous system. And the nervous system will support getting better much more effectively when we feel that we are in safe and trusted environments. So I think there's a misunderstanding of how the body deals with challenges, whether we're talking about a disease or an injury or even abandonment or trauma, that it's not something that is fixed by a drug or a surgery. It's something that you have to give permission to the nervous system to resolve and to heal it.
Anita Murjani popisovala také, že když byla se léčit v Indii ajurvédou, tak právě tyhle ty tradiční systémy, jako ajurvéda, tradiční čínská medicína, tak nedávají ty nálepky. Oni se právě na to dívají jenom jako na vyvedení těla z rovnováhy. A mám pocit, že polyvagální teorie je právě o tom, jak se umět navracet do toho stavu rovnováhy. To nebyla otázka, byla to spíš taková jako poznámka k tomu, že ty nálepky jsou spojené právě s konkrétními očekáváními, že to, já nevím, terminální diagnóza nebo velmi vážné onemocnění, ale v momentě, kdy se na to podíváme jenom jako na vyvedení toho těla z určitého balancu, tak nám to dává daleko širší pole a také nás to tak hrozně nevyděsí.
There's also another complicated set of factors. Medicine is driven by clusters of symptoms. You get assessments in those symptoms, and it's based on the assumption that there's a pathophysiology associated with the symptoms and that there's a genetic underpinning to that pathophysiology. Those are assumptions that are only partially correct. So many people have symptoms, but when they get assessments of the organ, they get biopsies or blood assays or whatever tools that medicine has available, they can't find anything. And these individuals are marginalized by medicine, and they're basically, the people are told, you're fine, you must see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And these are serious functional disorders. These are incapacitating disorders, but not with pathophysiology. Polyvagal theory addresses that space. It says those disorders are disorders of neural regulation of the organs. And you do not need pathophysiology, meaning damaged organs, to have these organs not working well. This is like with the gut problem. The gut has a neural regulation, but a significant proportion of adult population has gut problems. And it's because they're under, they say, stress or stress from the work. But polyvagal theory says throw the word stress out, throw the word anxiety out, ask a different level question. What is the status of the homeostatic processes? What's the status of the neural regulation of the autonomic nervous system? And the answer will be very clear, that when we're under challenges, the neural regulation of the autonomic nervous system is compromised. And that compromised function leads to the symptoms long before you have an organ failure.